Welcome to the Priceless Podcast, the short version. Please remember that with this podcast, you are only getting part of the story. I'm Michael Sechen, your podcast host. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. It's part of the Let Us Be Heard series supported by HMS. Subscribe, like, share, and comment. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And enjoy our guest today, Kerstin Söderblom.
I'm an ordained minister of the Protestant Church in Germany since the end of the 90s. And since February 2020, I'm a university chaplain at the University of Mainz in Germany. I'm also a lecturer in practical theology and pastoral care, and I'm a counsellor, certainly for students, but also for others, a religious advisor, conflict mediator, and coach. I'm 58 years old and I come from a small city south of Frankfurt in Germany. My coming out only happened during my theology studies at the University of Hamburg in the mid-80s when I was about 22, 23 years old. Here I was studying theology and asking myself, is there a future for me in the church, in the Protestant Church of Germany at the time? Because in the 80s, also in the 90s, also the Protestant Church in Germany was still very ambivalent about the topics of homosexuality and in general. And the people there were deeply divided over the topic. Fortunately, to also say that at the very beginning, my church turned out to be very supportive. I came out to representatives of the church even before I had passed my exams. And one person in the personnel department summarized the comment like that: you are accepted and will be ordained as minister because of your qualifications and not because of your lifestyle or your sexuality. So that comment was good for me, and it helped me a lot to continue with my studies and my theology studies. And I did pass my exams, even though there were struggles and times of crisis and conflict in between. Since almost 16 years, I lived together with Ulrike, my partner, and last December we got married. My church is open and marries same-sex couples for the last couple of years. But my partner, Ulrike, she is Roman Catholic. For very long, this marriage or even a blessing ceremony that we are planning now, an ecumenical one, was practically impossible for us to picture. And just for you to know, Ulrike my partner works as an executive director in a social Catholic organization. So therefore, she, as a leader of a Catholic organization, is actually not allowed to marry a same-sex partner according to Roman Catholic Church laws. And she risks, even up to this day, losing her job and her career, so to say, because she is doing this kind of work for the last 20 years. And she's also almost 60, so it's not so easy to change jobs and organizations at that age anymore. This fear that somebody in the church leadership would find out and use it against us was always lingering there. And what kind of church is that when you produce fear, stress, and pressure for your employees to not be at your best and be the person that you are? She was also asking herself, well, what is important in my life? And of course, relationship and love is important. And what am I waiting for? Do I want to wait forever for my church to change attitudes? They will certainly not do that within our lifetimes. And that for her was the point when she said, I'm sick and tired of this whole business. We're gonna get married. My parents are very open and supportive. I mean, my father, it took him 10 years to to accept me as a lesbian and not only see it as a phase or something that, I haven't met the right person yet. All these sentences that so many of us know, my father also quoted them. And then, interesting enough, he was then the biggest fighter for queer rights also in his parish, because they, within a church council process, decided not to bless. At that time, it was still blessing ceremonies for same-sex couples. And when my father heard that, he went to the pastor in charge and said, well, my daughter is lesbian, and I'm not satisfied with the decision of your church council, because they are actually discriminating against same-sex couples. So I protest here, So that was his coming out to his parish. Well, Ulrike so far has not heard anything from her bishop or her church leaders yet. Indeed, I think they basically also have other things to do at the moment in Germany, because they have to deal with what is called here #out in church, which is a very interesting development in the Catholic Church in Germany at the moment. Since we are in a mixed or ecumenical marriage, as I told you before, it's very exciting also for Ulrike and myself. It actually started to be in public in January 22, so it's not long ago. It was 125 queer Catholics coming out in public at the same time through documentary film that was broadcast on public TV in Germany. The whole thing turned out to be a big success story. Many other queer Catholics, Roman Catholics, followed this public outing, and now it's more than 400 or 500 stories being out there in the social medias, people showing their faces, saying some words about why they are coming out now, what they hoped for and what they are longing for, being Christian and queer at the same time, and wanting to connect things that the Roman Catholic Church for very long told them that there couldn't be a connection, that it could only be either being Christian or queer. I was at the European Forum as a delegate for the first time in 1996. The conference was in Oslo, in Norway. What happened there? It was a wonderful conference. It was empowering. It was wow, for me. It was a flash of so many different experiences and a real firework of different feelings. And the most important thing also for my personal life is that I met my ex-partner, Randy Solberg. We not only had 9 years of relationship, we had a long distance relationship for a couple of years between Oslo and Frankfurt when we still started our relationship and didn't know where it was going, obviously not. We lived together in New York for a year when I did a year at the Lutheran World Federation as a theologian, a lecturer, and a counselor. And then we lived together in the minister's house in a parish in Frankfurt for around 4 years in a so-called normal parish. It was difficult and exciting all at the same time. And in the church council where I presented myself as lesbian minister, feminist theologian, and living together with a Norwegian partner, and that we were planning to live also in the minister's house together if they were voting for me. So it showed up that there was a minority of conservative Christians that didn't want me, but a majority was in favor of me and us, the whole package, the queer package, so to say. So we had discussions and debates, and meanwhile I started my normal work as a minister. And after those 3 months, they actually decided again that they would love to have me longer, and also with me and my partner. So a majority again said it's wonderful to work with Kerstin and also with her partner. There is fresh air. There are new perspectives to church lives. There actually new people are coming. They're much more colorful. They're younger. They're queerer. All come to church or to the activities of the parish. And before that, they said, well, we don't have any queer people in the parish, so why should we have a lesbian minister? It was a very good learning experiences for all those who were critical and skeptical at the beginning, also for us, because I also learned to put down some cliches, stereotypes, and boxes about conservative Christians in parishes, all the way from 1996, the next decade, I would say. I was very much involved together with other sisters and brothers and siblings to do this kind of queer activist work in the framework of the European Forum. First, we started actually to change the European Forum a little from within, because as a lesbian feminist, together with Randi and other forum sisters, we really saw and experienced that the European Forum was at that time, very much shaped by gay men, not only in persons, but also in their way of theology and liturgy. The language in the liturgy was very male. One big thing that I'm still very proud of is that we also created a so-called safe space leadership project for Christian queer activists in Central and Eastern Europe. And we had this first training in the years 2004, 2005, 2006. It was 3 weeks of intensely working together, always connected to some kind of European conference. And we worked with 10 plus Eastern European mentees. We had mentors from all over Europe and did queer theology just as much as working with the Clobber text, doing strategic work of how to find allies in the straight world for, equality and justice for all within the queer world in some kind of church backgrounds. Up to this day, I would still say the most of my activist work, I learned strategic tools and instruments of how to develop queer subjects in a way that they are sustainable and also visible in structures and not only in thoughts and persons in the framework of the European Forum. And I'm very grateful for that. This high level of energy to activist work I had to reduce later. And just to finish it here, it also had consequences, for instance, for the relationship of Rani and me. We were so closely linked in our personal private life and our activist life that we also noticed at one point that we had a lot of conflicts coming up because of this mix of different things. And I think quite a lot of people who do intensely volunteers work know probably what I'm talking about. So in the end, after 9 years, really, we split up, not only for activist reasons, certainly. It's always a bundle of things. It was a very difficult and painful process for both of us, but it was also a good, it was in the end okay also for both of us. It was a mutual decision to split up. And after 2 years of total break and silence, we really could meet as friends. Since 2015, I'm writing blog posts with some queer friends of mine in a Protestant online magazine called evangelisch.de. Once a month, approximately, I'm writing one of these posts and my colleagues are writing at other times. My blog posts actually deal with the church political topics from Germany and beyond, also internationally, and topics about religious groups and faith issues from queer perspectives. That's, again, very important for me. And they deal with queer topics from a Christian perspective. And those blog posts together form this book that you mentioned. And I'm very proud of it. It's this... It's these various pieces of the various pieces of my life. So they are just as diverse and personal as my life is, a bricolage of so many different things. I actually got the so-called Leonore Prize. It's a feminist and gender affirmative prize in Germany that I got for my book. I'm still fighting on this religious battleground, so to speak, because I'm just convinced that, or the way I see it is that it's important not to leave this field of religion or Christianity more specifically. I'm a university chaplain now for the last 2.5 years at the University of Mainz, working there in a very ecumenical partnership with Catholic counselors and chaplains and some others. That's a very fruitful network there. I'm again writing a book. I'm in the process of writing a new book, and I hope to have it published by the end of the year. It's about queer sensitive counseling. I use my own counseling cases, of course, with pseudonyms and, making sure that the privacy of the people coming to me are respected. I use those cases as starting point to reflect about theology and what it means to offer and to do queer sensitive counseling, and to make sure to have that also in classes and formation classes for people who want to become counselors in the future. I certainly have this dream of an open and affirmative and queer supportive religious communities, and of course also society at large, and not only in the northwestern world, but certainly in places like in Eastern Europe, in Russia, and other places where being lesbian, gay, queer is still criminalized and a reason to get imprisoned and be in jail. I want this just place where we all have this in theological terms. It's called this God's shalom, this being a respectful and safe place for all. That's what I dream of, and I know it's still a long way. That's why I and others, certainly not alone, but together with others, need and still go on with what we do in terms of theology, in terms of activism, in terms of being out there, being visible and queer.
Thank you, Kerstin. Thank you, dear viewers and listeners. This podcast is made in partnership with the European Forum of LGBT Christian Groups. It is part of the Let Us Be Heard series supported by HMS. Subscribe, like, share, and comment in the comment section below. Find the links in the podcast description. See you next time, and don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Bye, everyone. Bye, Kerstin.
Bye-bye, Michael. And thank you so much for the time that we shared. I very much appreciate it.